distinguished guest, and thank you for your leadership. I particularly would like to commend Chairman Bair for her leadership in foreclosure prevention, and particularly for developing a new loan modification guarantee program to refinance on a large scale, which would help us to save millions of people, help them to stay in their homes. And I'd like to be associated with the comments of both the ranking member and the chairman that our intention was to use some of the TARP monies to invest in our economy and to get it moving in the right direction, and certainly stabilizing housing, as Chairman Bernanke has said repeatedly, that we must fix the housing crisis before we can get the economy back on track. So whatever the model, I firmly support using TARP money to stabilize housing in our economy. Secondly, my constituents are telling me that many of them still cannot get access to credit. Given that bank lending is still basically shut down, we need to be asking whether and when we should expect at least some fraction of TARP funds injected into banks to be lent. After all, one of the primary purposes of the TARP program was to get credit moving. I have non-bank lenders who are my constituents who lend money to small businesses and want access to the TARP to increase that activity. Today's Wall Street Journal talks about insurance companies that are buying up banks just to get access to the TARP money. And we then read many articles that banks are using TARP monies for buying other banks. So we are basically funding mergers and acquisitions, not lending. So my basic question is, why shouldn't we be giving TARP money out based on the activity it funds? Why don't we fund organizations that will lend it, whether it is a bank, an insurance company, so that we will be getting the credit out into the communities, which was the purpose of the TARP program. Again, every article talks about how it's being used for capital formation, mergers, acquisitions, other activities, buying up swaps, buying other things, instead of getting the credit out into the communities. So there are many questions before us today, but those are two of my prime focuses, that we should be helping people stay in their homes, and we should be working harder to get credit out into the communities.